Hi, my name is Steven. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about no regrets, powering through your life's decisions with minimal doubts. When we make a big life decision, there's many factors and reasons why we're making that decision. And we might agonize and think through that process a long time before we ultimately choose and pick our path. Sometimes though, once we make that decision, we might feel regret afterwards and feel like we're trapped and locked in. We might have buyer's remorse about the path that we chose. Example of this is picking a university, moving to a new city, or quitting that latest job you had. Very few life decisions in life are straightforward and easy for us, with no regret. So it might be quite frequent that we experience regret after a major decision within our lives, and ultimately ask the uncomfortable question of what if. I recently went through a series of decisions in my life that made me question this as well. Did I choose the wrong path? And I needed to work through my own doubts and regrets about the path that I chose. I had to remind myself of the following tips as I processed through all of my life's decisions. Some doubt is always normal, but you shouldn't let it get too overwhelming for you. So here are some of my tips to power through life's decisions with little doubt. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, hit that notification bell if you like this content. And let's go. So in the last few months, I definitely switched around a lot of things in my life. Expanding my family, starting a new job, and moving to a new place. And during this time, there was more than a few occasions where I expressed self-doubt and possible regret over the choices that I made recently. It was all about timing, whether I made the right move at the right time. I questioned it profusely. The timing of starting a new job, especially with the baby on the way, was definitely something that I questioned over and over in my mind. Sometimes it can be crippling to go through life and regretting the decisions you've made, or think that there's some other path that could have been better for your life overall. This really caused me to reflect upon my decisions and process through whether or not I was okay with it and to move on from it. And also moving from apartment to apartment, it also brought in a lot of chaos that should have been simple and straightforward. And lastly, starting a new family did bring its own challenges in itself. On the one hand, I'm excited to bring in a new child into this world. On the other hand, I might regret all the time and energy lost during this process. And I need to eventually get over and process the fact that I won't have as much time or energy in the future. The self-doubt from all these life decisions are there, but I've managed to keep it from elevating my stress and anxiety. Because the tips that I'm going to show you, I've used them in other parts of my life as well, when I have a major life decision looming. And in those times, I lean on those tips to make sure my mind is at peace with the decisions I've made. So here are my tips on pushing through doubt. Number 1, look ahead. After making a big life decision, do yourself a favor and look towards the present and the future. Try not to look into your past and dwell upon your decision. This is because if you always look into your past, you might be sabotaging your present and future of that decision. And your mind can get stuck in the past, dwelling on the decision you made over and over again. And you might be recreating your past problems in your present and or future. When we make a big life change, it's always with the thought and intent of making our lives a little bit better. Looking back can only help us inform us what not to do in our present and future. But this is certainly easier said than done because most of us do look into that past and do have a lot of regrets and doubt from it. It's not easy to change up your life and start brand new over in a different situation. It just doesn't happen very easily for us because we carry our past histories with us wherever we go. What I try to do is focus on one day or 1 week at a time. I don't look too much in the past and I don't look too forward into the future. And during this period, I usually take some time to process whatever I'm going through. So I make sure that whatever I'm doing, I'm thinking through all the good things that are happening to me and not stuck in the past thinking about the bad things. So I suggest taking as much time as you need, an hour, a day, whatever you need to take to focus in on the short term after a big life decision. You're probably going to still have doubt, but taking it one step at a time can help you move forward into the future, albeit slowly. Number 2, hindsight is 20/20. If and when you look back into the past, you'll always find that there's a perfect decision just waiting there to be taken. And knowing what you know now, you could have made that perfect decision if you had the chance to go back and take it. And that kind of regret on the path not taken is just no good for you to think about and dwell about. This has haunted many of us when we look back and see the mistakes that we could have prevented, or things that we could have done that would have made our lives so much better in the process. But at the end of the day, we can't second guess our decisions. We made the best decision with the available information at the time. There are very rarely perfect decisions in life. And this pertains to me as well. There's many times in my past that I've regretted a decision and I wish I can go back there and change it. All we can really do is learn from the mistakes of our past and move forward with those lessons learned. For example, choosing different people to be friends, picking a different major, or doing something different on a date. We all have things in our lives when we look back in hindsight, we could have done things differently. So when you're looking back on the past, on different decisions that you could have made, think about what you learned from that experience. How could you better yourself for the future? The key to realize is that who we are mainly based on our decisions from the past, and ultimately the choices that led us to who we are today. It is our responsibility to carry that knowledge and experience into the future to make better decisions. Number 3, few things are forever. For most things in life, it is only temporary or it can be undone at some point in the future. That big life decision or that choice you made can be reversed to a limited degree. Knowing that you have options and life is not fixed can help you minimize your regret in the short term. It may be harder to change things back to the way they were, but you can do it. There are options to get you back to there. That is the kind of mindset that you have to have going into a big life change, knowing that you can reverse it at some point. And having that option to reverse something relieves a lot of stress and anxiety associated with that decision. For example, moving back to your old job, moving back to that old city, or just hanging out with your old friends again. I know that for the big decisions that I just made, I can reverse many of them. I can move back into my old apartment and I can possibly get back my old job if I needed to. It's not going to be perfect, but I know it's going to be good enough if I regret that decision in the end. So if you have serious doubt going into your life decision, make a plan to reverse that if you need to. So if things get bad and you regret your decision, then you already have a plan in place to get back the thing that you lost, and kind of get the life you had before you made that big life decision. So know that few things in life are forever and most things you can reverse. And this is one of the biggest keys to help me not have too much self-doubt or regret about a big life decision that I made. Number 4, trust yourself. Lost in the midst of making a big life decision is the ability to trust in your own decisions and your capabilities. You need to be confident in yourself that you can handle whatever life throws at you and you can take care of it if needed. And also trusting yourself to make the right call when you need to. This also means that you solve any issues and challenges that might come your way after a big life decision. I think that people can be very resilient and are capable of more than they believe in at the moment. Because when push comes to shove, we have that capability inside to push us through a big problem. People can do some incredible things if they just focus and believe in themselves. And fear and uncertainty in our own capabilities is what cause us to have regret or self-doubt. And if you're in that mindset for a very long time, it can erode your capabilities of trusting yourself. I know for me, there was a period in my life where I didn't trust myself and I underestimated my capabilities. I was very fearful of moving away from my city of origin and my friends and family during that time. I had a job offer in another city and I couldn't say no to it, so I had to trust myself to make the right decision. I was able to do little things succeed, and that built confidence within myself to make more and more decisions. And as I started getting acquainted in that new city, I was more confident in myself and I trusted myself more to make bigger and bigger decisions in my life. For you, building that trust might be taking similar big life decisions that you've made in the past and seeing what you learned from them. Go through and write down all the list of challenges that you overcame and build up confidence within yourself through that. Start with small wins and keep building that confidence over time. A big part of powering through self-doubt is the ability to trust yourself when the going gets tough. You need to have a solid foundation of trust within yourself to know that you can push through whatever life throws at you, and that you'll be okay and you'll figure it out eventually. Number 5, embrace the unknown. Lastly, there's no way getting around that you're just not going to know what's going to happen to you in the future after a big life decision. There's just going to be a lot of uncertainty and unknowns. You'll have to anticipate as much as you can and embrace the rest of the chaos. Life is not linear and predictable as many people might think. Having a healthy understanding of what will go wrong will help lessen the self-doubt and regrets you might have after a big life decision. And know that you're going to have to roll with the punches and deal with some challenges ahead of you. Most of the regrets that come from decisions in our lives come from things that we did not anticipate will happen, and the challenges and issues that came after that decision just overwhelmed us. But keep in mind that this is normal and happens all the time. My move to a bigger apartment was supposed to be easy and straightforward. It was nothing but. It was rife with challenges every step of the way. I had to double check everything to make sure it got done. Things were being dropped left and right, and I had to pick up the pieces and figure it out. It certainly introduced a lot of doubt in whether or not I should have moved in the first place. And I needed to continuously remind myself that I have to embrace the chaos and accept it. Uncertainty is part of the game, and that's what I signed up for when I made that move. So I recommend when you're making a life decision to keep in mind that things might go wrong and you have to accept and embrace the consequences of that. Knowing that is half the battle, so you don't have unrealistic expectations going into it. And also try to plan things out as much as you can, so you can at least anticipate some of the problems that you might have going in. Because very few things in life will always go according to plan. So here are some of my general thoughts on powering through self-doubt. No decision is 100% foolproof. You're always going to have some doubt or regret about that decision. Having doubts about a big life decision is normal and I would say critical in order for you to learn the lessons of the past. And reflect on the aftermath of that decision, good or bad, to inform you of your future decisions. But the key is to manage that self-doubt and not go into full-blown anxiety mode. Because when we let self-doubt go into second-guessing ourselves in our present decisions, it's not healthy for us. In this case, I try to write down all the self-doubt that I have about myself and a big decision that I made on paper, and come back to it in a few days and reread it to critique it to make sure that's still a logical concern for me. Does it make sense, or was it driven by fear and uncertainty? Most of the time, it's self-doubt that manifested intensely in the moment but then faded away quickly afterwards. But this is also a good way to get your self-doubt and regrets on paper so you don't have to constantly think about it. So those are my tips on pushing through regret and self-doubt about a big life decision. We all have doubts when making a life decision. There's no such thing as a perfect decision. And there always will be things that we regret in our past that we wish we could have done differently if we could. But if we keep a few things in mind, we can mitigate and push through the self-doubt and regrets we might have on a major decision. So the keys of this video are to look forward, trust yourself, and embrace the unknown. Hopefully with these tools, you'll be able to reduce your regret and self-doubt in the future. So thank you for watching. Please leave me a comment down below on what's a big life decision that you made and whether or not you had self-doubt or regrets from it. And I'll see you next time.